What's going on, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we're back with another fight breakdown for a fight that I'm actually surprised that I'm a little excited for, and I have to thank Tyson Fury for that. Francis Ngannou is going to be facing Anthony Joshua this weekend. It's actually going to be on a Friday, March 8th, and I will be covering it live, but I almost forgot that this fight is on a Friday. It's not Saturday night. It's on a Friday, y'all. So be here because I will be doing live commentary on this fight for sure. But remember, it's a Friday, right? This is not for any title. This is just a big fight, two big names, just like Fury and Ngannou. But we have a lot more knowledge about Francis Ngannou this time around. I still feel like we don't know that much. What I will say is that I'm expecting Ngannou to be even better at whatever way, like based on the way that he fights, because he has another camp that he's actually preparing to fight. Instead of this will be his second actual boxing camp. So I can only expect him to be better. Plus, the confidence is there now. Not saying it wasn't there before, but now you were able to actually perform at the highest level against one of boxing's champions, Tyson Fury. And actually did better against Fury than I believe Deontay Wilder did in all three fights. So I think that shows a lot. Yes, some people say that Fury is slipping. Yes, some people is going to say that Fury didn't prepare like he would. But you know what? We saw it. You know what I mean? And we know that Fury is one of the best fighters, one of the best heavyweights of this time, in this current generation. And for Francis to be able to do that with no boxing experience, no real pro boxing experience, says a lot. We already know that he's a top UFC champion, heavyweight champion, and one of the greatest UFC champions, with the resume that he has. But as far as boxing, I think most of us looked at it as a joke. And I'm going to speak on that a little bit more because I think people like me that didn't care too much for the Fury and Ngannou fight, it's not that we didn't care for it. At least let me speak for myself. It's not that I didn't care for it. It was the timing of the fight. You're one fight away from fighting Alexander Usyk for undisputed. No, we don't want to see you fight Derek Chisora. No, we do not want to see you fight Francis Ngannou. We don't want to see that. We want to see you, Tyson Fury, against Alexander Usyk for undisputed. We don't want to keep wasting time. Usyk did what he had to do with AJ. Let's get you guys got to fight at this point. There's nothing holding it up. Why are you fighting other people? Why are you entertaining other fights? Why are you giving us trilogies that no one asked for? And that was my point. Why are you fighting MMA fighters, in exhibition type like fights right now, when we're one fight away from getting an undisputed heavyweight champion, something that we haven't had since Lennox Lewis. So to put your stamp on this current generation, you're one fight away, and you threw it away to take on fights like this, and it only made you look worse because Francis Ngannou was able to knock you down, and he had a lot of success in the fight. I think Fury, as far as boxing scoring, I think that's what people tend to forget sometimes when we're watching boxing. Sometimes we're just so into the moment and so much into the fight itself that we forgot we got to score the fight the way it is. And I still think that Francis barely lost the fight as far as rounds scored. I think Fury still edged him out as far as what I scored the fight. But Francis obviously had the biggest moments. I mean, he got the knockdown. He landed some really big shots. We seen him be able to push Fury off and muscle and bully Fury at times because he's so physically strong. And plus, he's an MMA fighter. Everything with the clinching and the wrestling and all of that is different. So I think that Fury kind of dropped the ball with that. I mean, it definitely raised the stock for Francis Ngannou. But now that we've seen Francis do what he did, he was able to switch. He was able to time and counter Fury's right hand. He was able to, put pressure on Fury. We learned a lot about him because before that fight, I didn't really know where to go, because in the media workout, he didn't even look that good. He didn't look that quick. You know, he looked kind of slow. We figured that, yes, he's big and he's strong. We know he was like pound for pound, like he's probably even a bigger puncher than Deontay Wilder. You know what I mean? So we know what kind of power he already had coming into this, but the lack of boxing experience, I figured he was going to be slow. I figured he was going to get tired really, really early, and Fury would just wash him up. You know, even if he didn't stop him, I thought Fury would be an easy fight, but that's not what we saw. But now that we did see it, it's easier for Joshua to prepare for the fight, you know, because now we have tape, you know, and I don't have to look at what he was doing in, you know, against Gon in his last MMA fight. You know, I don't have to look at that. That's what I was looking at before the Fury fight. Now I can look at the Fury fight and see what Francis brings to the table. But AJ's a completely different fighter, you know, than Tyson Fury. You know, I think Tyson is more unorthodox. He can switch. You know, I think he moves a lot better than AJ. You know, I just think he's just more natural in a way. Like, I think he's just a little bit more fluid, a little bit more smooth than AJ. I think AJ sometimes, like, I think he overthinks when he's in the ring. And I'm talking about just the negative things about him. But overall, I think AJ is a lot more technical. You know, I think defensively he's a little bit more aware. I know he gets getting touched up a lot in his fights, but I think he's just more disciplined than Tyson Fury. You know, I think he's a bigger puncher than Tyson Fury. You know, I know Fury's knocked out Wilder and he's knocked out White, but I still don't think Fury is just a complete KO artist. You know, and I think Joshua might be the bigger puncher. I know he has power in both hands. You know, you can argue with whatever way, but I just think that AJ is just a lot more compact. I think he's just a little bit more technically sound. You know, and I think what AJ is going to do is he's going to come into this fight like he's coming into this fight as if this is his biggest challenge. And plus, he has all the experience. I mean, he just came off a win against Otto Wallin, who was a southpaw. He fought Alexander Usyk, who's a southpaw, in 2 fights. So even if Francis Ngannou decides to switch at some point in this fight, is it really going to matter? I mean, look at a resume of AJ. Now he can prepare. He can know that, like, if this guy switches, then I have to tune up and be prepared for this. You know, whatever way he chooses to fight, he can prepare for both ways because now he knows exactly what's coming. Unlike Tyson Fury, who didn't know what was going to happen in that fight. You know, so I think AJ right now, it's a good time. The fight does, obviously, I still want other fights in boxing for AJ. Obviously, I want the Tyson Fury fight more. And there are some other fights I would have loved to see, you know, a fight against some of the other top contenders that are boxers. But I understand the names, putting 2 names together and fighting a guy that gave Fury so much trouble like he did with Otto Wallin. You know, it's not like I was asking for that fight, but there are a lot of people that thought Wallin was going to win the fight. And I remember, because I did break it down, I did do live commentary on it, and I remember saying that even though on that card, a lot of people viewed that fight as being like a 50-50 fight, I was one of the people that were saying, like, no, I think AJ is going to be fine in this fight. You know, I think AJ is going to dominate and stop Otto Wallin. I thought that leading up to the fight because I just thought AJ brought way more to the table. I thought AJ was going to bully him, and he did that exactly, especially because he has history in fighting with Otto Wallin. You know, I just didn't think Wallin had the power to keep AJ really like away or anything. AJ bullied him, you know, pressed him and stopped him with ease. Barely got hit in that fight. So, I think AJ in this fight here, you know, I think AJ is going to be well prepared, you know, and I think he's going to be prepared for anything in this fight. All right. And I think he has a lot to lose in this fight. Obviously, he has a lot to lose. You know what? We say that with every AJ fight. We say that in the Wallin fight. We say that in the Franklin fight. We say that in any fight that he's involved in, you know, Hellenius. A lot of people underestimate him because he's lost to Usyk. We saw he lose his cool when he lost to Usyk in a rematch. We seen him and lose to Ruiz. A lot of people were just like kind of unsure or where to go with AJ, and especially in his confidence. Sometimes he has interviews that make me people feel like he's not confident and that mentally he's not there. But I think that Wallin fight definitely put a lot of confidence back in him because he's been acting different since that way, that since that fight. All right. So talking about the fight, not too many details, I think that when it comes to AJ, I think the one key thing that AJ is gonna have a huge advantage over Francis Ngannou is the jab. Because Francis, when I watched a Fury fight, I had watched it like maybe a couple of weeks ago. I went back and watched it on ESPN, and I just think that Fury, it's counting too much on the right hand. And Francis did a good job of getting out of the way. Yes, he got caught with a few, but he was landing some good check left hooks. And I think with AJ, I think is a lot more with him. I think the volume is going to be a problem. I think his just overall experience and pacing himself is going to be a problem. And I think his jab is just going to be too much for Ngannou. I think we're going to see like a mixture of the Andy Ruiz rematch. I know a lot of people didn't care for that performance because AJ used his legs a lot. He stayed very distant, very he fought very fearful in that fight compared to other fights. I mean, I call it smart, but people are going to say he fought fearful simply because he didn't really engage and didn't want to get into any exchanges. So in that sense, I think he's going to fight that kind of fight, especially early on. I think he is going to use his jab and use his legs and move and change directions. I think he's going to jab to the body of Ngannou. I think solely the first 3 or 4 rounds for sure, even longer, maybe at least the first 5 or 6 rounds. I would say that AJ is going to just be moving laterally, using his jab. Yes, throwing some nice right hands every now and then. Might throw his combinations every now and then, but I think AJ is going to be focused primarily on jabbing and moving. All right, just getting different looks and trying to force Ngannou to just follow. I know Ngannou is going to be looking to counter his jab at times. He might even switch like we seen in the last fight. But I think overall, and I said this in the Wallin fight, I think that AJ is better against southpaws. I actually believe that. I know he lost to Usyk, but Usyk is a one-of-a-kind type of fighter because of the amount of conditioning. His conditioning is superb, but just the amount of moving and confusion he causes against anyone because he's doing so much with his lead hand. He's changing levels so much. He's feinting so much, and I think that it is too much for AJ. Whereas when you look at all of the top southpaws in the divisions, when you look at Zhile Zhang, when you look at Otto Wallin, even when you look at like a Francis Ngannou, if he decides to switch southpaws, they're too stationary for AJ to have issues with. Charles Martin's another one who AJ stopped with ease. AJ is actually better against southpaws in my opinion. And I think Francis Ngannou, if he decides to change, I think he's going to get forced to changing right back because it will be a clear path for AJ to land that straight, that right hand, that right cross. And I don't think it's going to work out too well if Francis decides to switch. He might switch at times to give AJ different looks. But I think overall, AJ, he's probably better off fighting AJ as an orthodox fighter. And I think AJ, again, working the jab, moving, just outscoring Francis very early in the fight and keeping it in a nice pace, not taking too many risks. I think it's going to be that kind of fight. I know AJ is coming off of the knockout win. And I know he knocked out Hellenius. Not as good of a performance, but he did stop Hellenius. But Hellenius was juicing in that fight anyway. But anyway, I think with AJ, I think AJ is going to be boxing. I think he is confident but I don't think he's going to be reckless just because he got a stoppage in this last fight. I think he's aware that this is actually, even though Wallin is a more experienced boxer, this is much more dangerous for AJ, much more dangerous fight for AJ. Based on the fury of a performance, I say that Ngannou is much more dangerous for AJ than Wallin, Hellenius, and Jermaine Franklin was. I think Francis, because of the power, and that's the thing with Francis. Him coming in the fight and him strategically, Francis is not the better boxer. I think he's fighting a much higher technician that's looking to outperform Tyson Fury. And I think Francis needs to take a different approach. Yes, he showed the world that he can box against Fury, and have the strength and, have the power and stuff. He showed us that. But in this fight here, I think in order for Francis to really win, because I don't think he's going to win this fight, but in order for him to win, I think he needs to show that he's the better fighter. He has the more dog in him. I think he needs to bring a little bit more of that UFC type of fighting in this fight. I know this is a boxing match, and I know that he might get caught. I'm not saying fight completely reckless, but I think early on he needs to be a little bit more aggressive, because I believe that the way that this fight is going, the longer it goes, the more tired he's going to get. I don't think he's going to get better as the fight goes on. I think he's going to get worse. So I think with with Francis Ngannou, I think Ngannou needs to be more aggressive early. I think you want to go in there and throw some big bombs. Even if AJ blocks him, you want AJ to fight a little fearful. You want him to be a little bit more concerned. You want him to be like you. AJ has always fought guys that he was bigger than. Yes, he's fought other guys that's tall and stuff, but he's always been massive against everyone. Now he's fighting someone that, even though he's a little bit taller than, he's fighting someone is a big, strong man, right? Probably stronger than AJ, probably even a bigger puncher than AJ. So what you want to do is make him aware that you are different than all of these guys that AJ's fought. AJ's fought punches in there. He's been in there with Klitschko. He's been in there with Povetkin. But you want to go in there and make him feel that early. You want to throw away whatever kind of confidence he has going into this fight. You want to remove that. And I think what Francis Ngannou needs to be the better fighter, not the better boxer, but the better fighter overall. You are still a UFC MMA king. You still are that. So even though you may not be a boxer, a career boxer, you are still a fighter at the end of the day. And what you want to do is make the fight work in your favor. You want to throw off AJ mentally. And I'm not saying that because AJ is mentally weak. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is you want to show AJ that you're the stronger man. That you hit harder and that you could knock him out and that you're looking to knock him out. And any mistake that AJ makes, you want him to feel like he has to fight completely cautious. So cautious that he doesn't want to engage with you. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people have said about AJ since the Ruiz loss, that he has lost that killer instinct. I don't think he's lost the killer instinct at all. I think at some point maybe he did, but right now he looked like the AJ of old in that last fight against Otto Wallin. But you want to remind him that, like, look, you can get knocked out, and you got to put the pressure on him and make him feel trapped. So it's a mental game with me. I don't think it's more of a skill versus skill. No, we know who's more skilled. Everybody knows who's more skilled here. What Ngannou wants to do is prove to the world that he's the better fighter overall. Make it physical and start early. Because soon as AJ is picking you apart early, round after round, if he's doing that, and it's not as competitive early like it was against Fury, Ngannou's in trouble. He's in a lot of trouble because he's going to burn out. And the thing is, Ngannou's a big dude. Like I said, he's a big dude. He's been tired in UFC fights. I've seen him. I've seen a lot of them. So I think when it comes to boxing, and especially against against Fury, I've seen Ngannou slow down in those later rounds. You know what I mean? I mean, he did well in the fight, but you can tell that he didn't have that same pop in a later round. And I think that's what AJ needs to, focus on. Like, push towards strong later. Fight smart early. Fight smart. Stay, yes, avoid engaging on the inside. Because it's a different type of clinching. Francis has a ridiculously vicious uppercut. We know AJ does too, because we seen what he did to Klitschko and other fighters like Povetkin. We seen AJ do damage on the inside as well to the with uppercuts. But Francis Ngannou is a guy that has one punch knockout power. We want to be careful. He clinches and he ties up differently. You don't want to get caught off guard by someone that has that kind of wrestling background. You just don't want to do it. Fury, we already know Fury struggled in it. So we want to be careful going into that fight when it comes to that. All right. Overall, I have AJ winning the fight on points. I don't think, even when Ngannou getting tired, and even though AJ is gonna, even if AJ rallies late and pushes for a stoppage, I just can't see Ngannou quitting, and I can't see him getting knocked out. He's been very durable throughout his career, and unless he's tapping out, because he's in a chokehold, I don't see him quitting. All right, and I don't see him getting knocked out, even by AJ. So anyway, I have AJ winning a unanimous decision. Again, I think the jab is going to be the key, and his movement is going to be the key as well. And I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be as competitive as Fury, but you just can't sleep on Ngannou, because he's dangerous and because he has all the confidence in the world. You just can't sleep on that guy. All right. So anyway, I'm out of here. You guys subscribe to the channel. Have a good one. Peace.